All right. Welcome. This is another episode. Actually, this is the season finale. Finally, we made it. 6 episodes in. Season finale of season 2. This is episode 6. And we have an amazing guest here today. But before I tell you who it is, I want to go ahead and give a special thank you to our sponsors, because we couldn't do this without all of you guys, the Navigators Group, Uranga. I want to give a big shout out to the Campfire Studios for always giving us this amazing space to do this, and also the Ministry of Ethnic Communities. So look, without further ado, first of all, once again, thank you for all of your support as we go into this season. This season finale. I just really want to say thank you again for all of your support and all of your likes, all of your shares, everything you've been doing. Today we're talking to someone all the way from Belfast. Can you believe that? We're going into a very semi-touchy subject called marginalized masculinity. So tune in. Okay, all right. For those of you who are listening and or watching, we have a very special guest by the name of Mick Donaghy, all the way from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and he's been in New Zealand for 6 years. Welcome to the show, Mick.
Yo, what's happening, my man?
Hey, man, I'm just trying to stay dry. It's another predictable weather situation in Auckland.
Yeah,
where it is wet enough to flood someone's house. Hopefully, no one floods. But it's just one of those days. But other than that, it's been a good day.
Yeah,
it's been a busy day, but a good day.
Good.
So yeah, man, I was just happy to have you on the show. So this is our season finale. So I'm actually honored to have you on, and thank you for doing it on such short notice.
Yeah, 100%. I'm always ready though. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I see that. I see that. Yeah.
I'll be there in the drop of a hat. Yeah,
you seem like the type of guy I want to have with me in a bar fight. Like,
well, I don't know about that. Like, I'll be drinking pints watching.
We can go with that too. That's all good. So everybody that comes on, like, all we do is have a nice casual conversation about why you ended up all the way down here in New Zealand, coming from Belfast. That's a long way away. Yeah. Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and tell me why you ended up in New Zealand?
Yeah, so I mean, I arrived here in 2016. So me and my best mate decided to go backpacking. Yeah. So we actually started off in the States. So we flew from Dublin to Boston, and then Boston to Seattle, and we traveled all around the west coast of America. Done a little bit of time in Fiji, and then ended up in New Zealand. And I was planning to be here for a year. So the whole plan was just to come here, work in like a bar or like a cafe, and just kind of like, have that sort of cruisy lifestyle for a while. And then I realized how expensive it is. So I realized I needed to go back into my career at that time, which was recruitment. And then I ended up just falling in love with New Zealand.
Wow.
I met my wife after about 4 or 5 months being in NZ. And then once you've met a Kiwi woman, really there's no chance of going back to Ireland. she got her hooks in pretty early.
You see all the Irish women online like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So yeah, I mean, I've been here since 2016, done a little bit of time in Australia, came back to NZ last year, was in Australia for a couple of years. I mean, I like Australia, but I feel like New Zealand's just a little bit more like Ireland. We talk about the rain. In Australia, it just didn't rain for nearly 2 years, and then I missed it so much. Yeah, and now I'm here and
missed the rain.
Oh, I mean, I missed it so much. Yeah. It was like, because you don't realize how much the rain like impacts everything else. So like,
we about to go deep already.
Yeah, everything's straight away. everything's brown in Australia. There's no green. Well, if it doesn't rain, and so we came back here last year. And yeah, we're loving it again. So I'm glad to be back. I feel like home, so.
Okay, so if you were backpacking, you were here on a working holiday visa?
Yeah.
Originally?
Working holiday visa, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I got the working holiday visa. And then the employer I was with at the time, after the first year, they sponsored me because I was in recruitment. So they sponsored me. And then because my wife's Kiwi as well, so I've been able to use that route also, which is always handy. you know, yeah. So it's worked out well.
Oh, that's good, man. That's good. So you pretty much you love. Well, you say you fell in love in New Zealand. So are you still in love in New Zealand?
Oh yeah, I love New Zealand, and I love my wife, who's also Kiwi. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, I think every country has, you know, has their perks, but also has their challenges. And I think New Zealand's going through some challenges at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I still love the place. I can't really imagine living anywhere else now.
Well, let's talk about that, because that was my segue. Like when we talk about highlights and lowlights, I always ask people at this point. So let's maybe start with a lowlight. Like what would be like? So when you were here, so you've been here for 6 years.
Yeah.
So out of that 6 years, like what's the worst of the worst that's kind of happened?
I think the hard thing is when you're away, you're so far away, so far removed from your family.
Yep.
You know, that's probably a challenge, you know, when those first few years. I remember my dad, my mum passed away when I was about 24. And then I moved away the year after, but the months before I left, my dad had a heart attack. But anyway, when I was out here, he had to go through heart surgery. And at the time, can't remember, the circumstances were a bit weird and I couldn't get back, you know. So having, you know, family that you're really close to, you're missing out on things, you know. I wouldn't say there's been a particular low light of actually like being in NZ with regards to anything in particular, but when you are an immigrant, you do, you know, you face challenges from missing family, missing funerals, missing births of young kids and stuff like that.
Up a lot on the show.
So I think that's maybe been a challenge, but there's never been a super low light. There was a bad time where one of my good friends he committed suicide, and I got the news.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I got the news when I was over here, and I mean that's a complete end. It's a complete finite. You know, it's just over. But there's nothing you can do apart from you just move on. You know, so
did you go to the?
No, because it happens in Ireland. We have funerals really quickly. So if someone dies on a Monday, they'll be buried on Wednesday.
Really?
Yeah, that's super quick. Yeah, so that's kind of what happened. So yeah, we I don't know. It's maybe Catholic religion or. You're just buried very, very quick. Usually, we have what we call an Irish wake. So if you die, it's kind of. I was actually talking to a girl at work, and she's Muslim, so she doesn't drink. And in Ireland, we all drink, and so if someone dies, we have an informal sort of ceremony called waking the body, and we bring the coffin is in the house and everyone comes around the house and drinks along, you know, it's kind of waking the body. But anyway, that was probably a low light, but I've never had a low light as in like, there's been people nasty to me, or I've like, you know, I felt objectified or anything like that. You know, there's never been that.
Okay.
You know,
That's
been good. Just general life, you know, there's always ups and downs. So I would say,
I've always been curious about Ireland. Like, because you say the rain.
Yeah.
The rain is, I've never heard anybody speak so highly of the rain. So I would like to apologize for my
I was hurt. I nearly walked out.
I apologize for all the derogatory comments that I had about the rain in the beginning of this episode. No, it's just interesting to me because, like, you said the rain reminded you of home. Is there any other, like, what are the main difference between New Zealand and Ireland?
I mean,
or similarities.
Humor is really similar. So we've got like a real sort of self-depreciating humor where we like take the piss out of our own selves a lot, and that's what we do. That's what we do in Ireland anyway. And I think that I'm not too sure if the Kiwis would do it the same, but they find it funny anyway.
Do it the same, man.
Yeah,
I couldn't wrap my head around it when I got here. I was like, why is everybody so damn sarcastic? What is going on?
Yeah. But in Australia, they don't really get the sarcasm as much. You know, so if I'm like making jokes or like taking the piss, which is me just being funny and sarcastic, they might get a little bit more hurt, you know. But anyway, I think similarities is definitely humor. we're a far better rugby team as well, which has been clear, you know.
Bro, you about to break the server. All the people about to comment on this.
Yeah. So we smashed them, and it's only our fifth most played sport as well.
Now, like, I don't even know much about rugby, but I know this is a sore subject.
Yeah.
I know this enough because I actually watched that game.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is not good. There was a lot of emotions.
Yeah, there was a lot. But the thing was, which was so good, because it was quite unlike NZ as well, is that there was a lot of like, the last time Ireland won here was 30 years ago, and it was like, it was all given a load of like beef and stuff, you know, and it was like, all this is going to do is motivate Ireland more, you know. But we end up winning the series, so yeah, I mean that's pretty clear similarity there.
Yes, yes. I listened to a lot of sore losers on that. They were talking about how a lot of the players come from New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, what they won though? Like, you stop saying it. Like, don't take it away from them. That's their victory.
Well, I mean, we'll take as many Kiwis as we can get. Do you know what I mean? You just keep them coming. Shout out to Bundyaki. There are a lot of similarities. Even like the country looks similar in many ways. I always say New Zealand's kind of like Ireland but on steroids. So on a great day, it's like insanely good here, whereas a great day in Ireland's like 16 degrees and it's just not raining. That's a really good day in Ireland. But yeah, there are a lot differences. I mean, I don't really know differences. I think there's...
If you can't think of any, that's fine. I'm just interested in and I love hearing about different cultures, and like this show is all about celebrating culture. Like, it's so cool that I get the honor to talk to the whole world 1 week at a time. You know, it's cool. Like, it's just I want to go there one day just to see it, just to see what it's like. Yeah, I'm not really that much of a heavy drinker, but it'd still be cool to.
Oh, you don't need to drink to have fun in Ireland. You know, you could go into a pub, and just experience the fun that's happening.
What's the food like?
Food's good. Yeah, it is. Well, we have like traditional, what we would sort of classify as pub food, but it would be like potatoes. It would be like steak. It would be like, you know, really like rich gravies and vegetables and stuff. It's all really sort of the finest quality food, you know, but it's not like super fancy, you know. So, I mean, food's good. I do miss some of the food back home, but I mean, food's pretty sick here as well.
Yeah, man, I definitely fell in love with. I was going to actually ask you about that. So, when you came to New Zealand, was a defining moment that made you fall in love with New Zealand? Like, out of that 6 years, or I guess we talk about the highlight now.
I mean, a defining moment. I mean, there wasn't any sort of specific moment as such. I think for me, it was just I was having so much fun. Like, for the first, few years, it was just one thing rolled into another. It was just having so much fun. I had a really good group of friends. We were all kind of the same age as well. We were all like 26, 27. We were all expats typically. So a lot of us were Irish from the UK. We had people from South Africa. And we were here in New Zealand for the one thing of like exploring in a different country. And we ended up just fall in love with it. Some people decided to move away. Yeah, a lot of those guys are still here as well, who are probably some of my best friends. So I mean, I think it was so much fun at the time. And I think New Zealand was just going through such like a really good period as well. It was like 2016, 2017. I mean, I just have such good memories. And then when you meet a woman here as well, it's hard. It's hard to leave. And so, yeah, I mean, everything just sort of fell in place. And then I ended up sort of comparing it to going, well, I have so much here going for me. If I go back to Ireland, I'm kind of having to start again from scratch.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't a motivator to go back, and things. New Zealand's quite unique as well, that you can do really well. I feel like fairly quickly. I feel like if I was to do really well in Ireland, it'd probably take me like 20 years. But I reckon you could do really well in New Zealand in like a quarter of the time or half the time.
Wow. There's just scalability, just the size. Just
yeah, I think there's so much demand for talent here as well. And if you are ambitious enough and you've got the guts and the stones about you to actually go and try and achieve things, I think that you can.
Well, have you encountered tall poppy syndrome at all? Surely.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do. I mean, there is that tall poppy syndrome of, I don't know. I don't know whether it's because I'm Irish. I don't really get it as much. It's like he's Irish and he's good crack. So I mean, I don't know. Is it because you do see like Kiwis turn down Kiwis, like for example, the All Blacks, like they just get absolutely smashed to bits all the time. You know, like you're like, well, I mean, they've literally been the best rugby team in the world for like 15 years. Like,
yep,
there's always going to be cycles where there's going to be other who are better. You know. So yeah, I haven't experienced it individually, apart from the odd haters online, which you're always going to get.
Yeah.
But I do see it, obviously. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like New Zealand should be. I was actually thinking about this the other day. You know, the sign. There's a sign that's up on all the bus shelters that says "Be a tidy Kiwi," and I don't know. I'm just like, this is just so patronizing. You know, like just I don't know whether I'm going off on a tangent, but.
No, it's not a tangent.
But it's kind of like putting like the whole "be a tidy Kiwi." It's like, yeah, well, we get the point. Like, don't litter, like, you know what I mean. But it just seems a bit patronizing or something like that. You know, just like, yeah, just let people be and don't treat them like children. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but that's me.
This is the stuff we're here for, man. It's not a tangent. This is exactly what I need. All right. So, do you have any like favorite holiday destination? Obviously, you traveled. You've been here long enough. Any place that really blows your mind?
Oh, I mean, generally anywhere in the South Island's just incredible.
I still haven't been, man.
Oh man, how long you been here?
Man, I've been here for 8 years, and I still have not been. I mean, I've been to Christchurch.
Yeah, but it's not like
that's not. I want to go to the Shire. I want to go to the mountains.
Yeah,
and I want to almost freeze. I want to see that type of stuff. The snowy top mountains and the beautiful stuff they put on the postcards.
It's incredible though. Like I spoke to a guy. I remember I was here in 2016, 2017, and I met a guy, and he was also from Northern Ireland, and he said he had lived here for 26 years and he had never left the North Island. That just blew my mind. But there is so much to see. Like you could spend your whole life in the North Island and just still be blown away by its beauty. You know, like you've got. You know, all of the Bay of Islands, you know, you've got like all through Coromandel, you've got like Taupo. I mean, you need to get on the road.
I do. I need to get on the road. I mean, that's probably why I'm so grouchy. I've been in Auckland for too long.
Yeah, you need to get out.
But it's cool. All right, so what about? Oh yeah, this was one of my favorite questions. Do you have anything that's strictly Kiwi that you couldn't get your head around, or that was like really like funny to you, or just strange?
I mean, the accent cracks me up. You know, like the Kiwi accent. It's like it's so thick.
Can you do it? Can I get a little bit of Kiwi accent?
I don't know. It's just there's loads of luck. There's loads of deep U's in there. Do you know what I mean? Like good luck, bro. You know, like my wife can't understand me, right? And I brought her home to Ireland, and I remember sitting having a cup of tea with my old man back home, and he just met her for the first time, and he turned around to me and was like, Jesus, she has a bit of an accent on her, doesn't she?
But y'all accent is pretty thick too.
Yeah. Man. So's yours.
Well,
you've got that sort of that deep soul-y voice, do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't see people talk about the American accent, like the thing is different types of American accent.
Yeah.
There's the people from Cali. There's the people from New York. There's Colorado. There's Texas. There's Chicago. Like it's different. It's different types of it. But I didn't understand how people didn't understand American accents when I got here, because I would talk and they'd be like, "What are you saying? What are you saying, mate?"
That's crazy though. I mean, like there's so much American TV.
It's American TV. It's American movies. Why do you not understand me? There's no Kiwi movies back in Chicago. I can tell you that. No one's watching y'all movies. So it makes sense that I can't understand you.
Yeah.
I got on the bus here and I asked them to take me to One Hunger. Screaming at the bus stop for a long time. Like all these places. Like I used to say, Magiri.
Yeah.
Trying to go to Magiri.
Yeah, like I remember trying to pronounce Tauranga you know, and I still don't even pronounce it right. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't either.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah.
Just point to it on the map now. Like,
It's just that one of the T.
Yeah, it's the one with the T. That's where I want to go. And no, it's cool. The but I think you're right. The accent is really thick. So, do you have any immigration like tips or hacks that you want to give to someone else, even if they come in from the same country or another country?
Yeah, I think I think it's up to the individual. You know, so because I work in recruitment. I know that you do too. I get a lot of people contacting me all the time.
Yeah,
you know, and I know that New Zealand's crying out for skilled people across nearly every industry, but it's really, I think it's, I haven't been recruiting in New Zealand for a while, but I know that it's, I mean, they're trying to open up the borders, they're trying to make things easier,
yes,
which is great, but I still think it's down to the individual. I think that you've got to go and do your research, find out what is available to you. You know, there's different, I mean, it could be a working holiday visa. If it's not working holiday, it could be a sponsored visa through an employer. If it's not that, it could be critical skills. You know, you've got to do your research, and then you've got to come up with a plan. And I always feel like if you're reaching out to someone to do the hard work for you, it's not going to work. You know, if you want something hard enough, you'll make it happen. Yeah. You know, so I think it's up to the individual to really try and actually execute their dreams. If you want to get to New Zealand, you can get here.
Yeah,
mostly.
No matter how hard it seems.
Yeah.
But no, that's pretty much that's amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. Do you have any other final words you want to add to future migrants or existing migrants?
Yeah. I mean, New Zealand's an amazing place to live. There's obviously challenges that we're facing now as a country, you know. But I actually think, by and large, New Zealand's in a really good position. You know, there's massive demand across the board in nearly every industry. If you want to come to New Zealand, which is, you know, mostly a really safe country, it's a beautiful country. It's a place where you can make amazing friends. I think people are really welcoming here as well. I think that there's just immense opportunity. You know, if you're ambitious, you can go to the top. And I think, you know, if it's something that you're thinking about, do it.
Okay, Mick. So, this topic is something I've had on my heart for a while, and I think after talking to you for this long, I think you're the perfect person to have this conversation with.
Yeah.
So I named this episode "Marginalized Masculinity" for a reason, not to see men as victims, because we're not. That's not what I'm aiming at. But I guess wanted to have an honest conversation with someone who is pretty much like me, young, ambitious, but you know, a little bit taken back by the climate right now of this gender topic. Now I don't know about you. Do you have kids? I forgot to ask you that.
I don't have kids, no.
So I got 3.
Yeah.
I got 2 girls and a boy.
Yeah.
And my son is 4. And it's like, it's really interesting, you know, coming up in a society where things are so volatile. Like things that I would have never had to deal with when I was a kid. You know, I'm starting to feel old talking like this now. I'm 36.
Yeah. Past it. You got that young looking face though, do you know what I mean?
Well, that's baby face. That is what it said to me when I go to Countdown and try to buy wine.
Yeah.
You know, they always tell me to pull out my ID, and I'm like, man, I do it like I get so happy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sure.
Yeah, fist pump.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really feel 36. I actually feel 45 most of the time.
Yeah.
Especially with my kids. Like, it's a new gray hair almost every week.
Yeah. That's why you get a nice fade. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly. See, that's why the fade is there, man. It's really to hide what's really going on. But like even stuff like that, like a fade, like just even stuff like with a fade. These are things like, especially in my culture, getting a haircut is like, it's almost it's like a sacred thing. Like, amongst guys.
Yeah.
Getting a haircut is, first of all, it's the only place you can go where you can feel even more masculine.
Yeah.
While you're there.
Yeah.
Because you're around other men and you get to talk about things that other men are interested in.
Yeah.
The barbershop is a place where people talk about sports, they talk about money, they talk about business ideas.
Yeah.
And so even well, that's in my culture in the area. I don't know how do things flow.
No, we're very similar. Yeah, very similar. Like if you go to the barbershop, it is a little bit like it's your place. Do you know what I mean? It's like you go there. You've got your guys. Or you have your one barber who's usually freshening you up.
Of course,
and
never cheat on your barber.
No, 100%. And then, but I know what you mean. You get there. You're there. You chat shit. You have fun. You usually come out feeling like it's like a bit of a therapy session. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like is that diluted? Is that even allowed anymore? It's what do you think?
I don't know, man. It's really interesting. Like it's certain things that I really used to look forward to growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is gonna sound really, really, really. Oh, my dad doesn't see this.
Yeah,
but I used to look. I still look up to my dad in a lot of ways. My dad did a great job. Obviously it's not perfect. But my dad did a great job installing in me and my brothers what responsibility looks like.
Yeah.
And it was just very clear. This is it. This is what leadership looks like.
Yeah.
This is what responsibility looks like.
Yeah.
But the funny thing I was about to say is, one time, my dad was getting out of the shower, right? And I was like,
"Here we go,
here we go." Now I was like, 6, maybe. I know I was younger than 9. I know I was younger than 9. Like I was young, man. He had already put his underwear on, right? But I could still see the bulge. I can still see the bulge.
My man. Yeah. Shout out. Give a shout out here.
Bro, I kid you not, man. Like, I turned into Loki. You know how Loki on Thor? I was like, is this really what I'm supposed to become?
Yeah.
This is amazing. I truly am a god. So like, I was just so impressed. Like, man, that's cool, man. I'm gonna be like that one day. I ain't like that right now, but I'm gonna be like that. 'Cause even as a child, like, you just got that. Well, you have that mentality of, I'm a boy and I'm supposed to become a man.
Yeah.
And then and I'm sure girls the same thing. And they would look at their aunties and they would look at their moms. I'm a girl. I'm supposed to become a woman.
Yeah.
But now, obviously, the narrative has changed.
Yeah.
New narratives have been added into the mix in our schools and and obviously society. So it wasn't in our schools at first. It actually started off, I guess, with just one group of people. And I'm not trying to bash one group of people or say who's right or wrong. This conversation is not about right or wrong. It's about, do we still have the freedom to express thought?
Yeah.
Because if you say you want to go out with the guys, I feel like even little stuff like that will come under attack now. Why can't you go out with the girls and the guys? It's because I want to be out with the guys.
Yeah, it's an awkward topic as well. Like you nearly have to dance around it because you're afraid of what slip up here or slip up there is going to offend someone. But I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to be who we are. We're men, So you said when you were a kid, you looked at your dad, and you want to grow up. You want to be a man. You want to be you want to be strong. You want to be responsible. You want to look after your family. If you're a girl, I assume I don't know, but I assume you want to you're kind of grown up. You want to be I don't know. Maybe you want to be pretty. Maybe you want to be someone who's attractive. Maybe you want to be caring for others, I mean, that's kind of stereotypically what, but nowadays it's it's cool to be ugly, right? But no one wants to grow up and be ugly. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? So what's wrong with just us being men and saying, yeah, I want to be like I want to look after my family. Like there's nothing like there's nothing wrong with that. I want to go to the barber shop and talk to the boys and have a bit of banter and talk about talk about girls or talk about the weekend, like some of the silly stories that have happened. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think that is fundamentally wrong if we do cancel that out. Like we're just going to cancel our lives away. Do you know what I mean? If we like literally monitor every single thing someone says, like because we can't do it. I'm a believer in free speech, and I do believe that there's some really toxic people out there, and if we ban everyone, and like literally that's the start of some real sketchy stuff. Like I don't like Donald Trump at all, but they've banned him off everything. Like I hate the guy, like, but I don't think that we should be banning him. Likewise, I don't think that we should be banning anyone, because who decides who's banning at that point?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so it could be these real, like, who's paying for the Twitters, who's paying for the Facebooks, who's paying for these companies, who's in control of those companies? They're essentially then in control of the narrative of our lives.
Yep.
So
that's a good point.
And I think we should be pushing back on that, and I think we should be pushing back on this cancel culture that we have to, like, what are we supposed to be more feminine now? I don't know. Like I don't know.
Don't ask me. I'm definitely
you know what I mean?
there.
Like,
I'm just the guy going to get the fade.
Yeah,
Like I feel like we've normalized bullying in an attempt to attack bullying. We've normalized bullying. So the anti-bullying people actually have unintentionally become the bullies.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it's funny, like if you really look at what's happened, I kind of feel like that community, the transgender community or the LGBT community, these people are just trying to live life. But then I feel like, and this is going into the conspiracy theory side, but I don't know. I feel like there's another crowd of people who are, they're not even in that community. They're not even a part of it, but they want to be seen to be fighting for a cause. Yeah. And they want to cancel you if they think you're against that community. And it's just like, no, you guys have an agenda. I don't know what your agenda is, but you're actually not even a part of the trans community. You're not even a part of the LGBT community. Yeah. You're just trying to have your own little platform. But I think everything comes down to I did an empathy course a couple of years back on my own mental health journey. And it was 16 weeks. I learned a lot. And I learned about thoughts, feelings, and needs, right? So one of the main things I learned was every feeling points to a need that is or not being met. So it was groundbreaking for me, because then I was able to get a language for what I was feeling. So if someone's angry and if they punch a wall, it means they're feeling frustrated because their need for, it can be need for connection or your need to be heard is not being met. Yeah. And once I was able to do that, just forming it a little sentence, it made a lot of sense. So going back to what we said about kids and little girls growing up and little boys growing up, I think kids will they'll probably assimilate to what need is being met. My dad, when I was a kid, he fulfilled that need for me to feel secure. Yeah. So obviously he provided that need of security. So this is about a deep need of security that was being met. So therefore I looked to that and wanted to become that for all the people that I love. Yeah. And it became my love language. Mm-hmm. But I think the danger in what's happening now in society is when we're straying away from that, it's not about general thoughts and needs, which everybody has, no matter what your gender is, no matter what your religion is, no matter if you identify as non-binary or whatever, LGBT, lesbian, it doesn't matter. Everybody has thoughts, feelings, and needs. Mm-hmm. If you have a heartbeat, you have thoughts, feelings, and needs. And I think when we get away from what is the actual need, what's actually happening, and then we just only focus on the political and the social vehicles behind driving an agenda, I think we get lost. And I think that's what happened. We saw the same thing happen with the vaccine mandates. We literally are just taking a really hard topic that's already hard to discuss and gaslighting it. Yeah. And now it's like a wildfire. And it's like, I'm sorry, man, we haven't even got to the questions.
No. I think it's important to talk about. I mean, I think it would be worthwhile discussing it with people who are in those communities at the same time. Because I also don't believe that like there are maybe people within those communities who are really vocal, but maybe they're not actually being vocal for everyone within those communities at the same time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's another piece.
Yeah, and because like I know, like I have a lot of like friends who are gay, but they're gay, but they're also conservative at the same time. You know, like, and that's not maybe the common that you'd expect all to be left wing, to be going out and going to Pride and dancing around, and that's cool. That's 100% cool. But I've got family members who are highly successful, and they're conservative and they're gay, but they're equally part of that community at the same time. So I think it's, you've always got a question as well, like what's this person's motive behind this,
Yes.
And typically the loudest in the room isn't always the one that you should be paying attention to, So I think we're in a weird situation. I've thought about this as well. If and when I do have kids, it's super confusing time for them as well. They're being introduced to all this, different like mandates and philosophies, and and I look at like my childhood bringing up was quite simple, and it was nice, and I went out and played in the street, and we kicked the football around, and it was just like innocent, and I don't know, like if you're a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old and you're in school and you're being introduced to all these different things that you could be, which is cool. Like I understand that is fine, but at the same time, are we driving like narratives down people's throats to make ourselves feel better?
It sure feels like it. It sure feels like it. So, like I said, we didn't even get to the questions that I wrote up. We just kind of dived into this. So I say, the first one is in your opinion, what are the defining characteristics of being a man? What does it mean to be masculine? Just in your opinion. Now, obviously, I say in your opinion. So to all of our listeners, please be nice. We're being nice. Take it with a grain of salt. It's just I want to hear Mick's opinion based on his background, his upbringing.
So I think like I've probably went through this like in the last maybe 5 years, maybe. Like a learning curve through myself of what it is to be a man. I was probably in my 20s. I was probably still a bit childish to some extent, or immature. But for me, I think a man is someone who's responsible, someone who's in control of their emotions, or is trying to be in control of their emotions. I think it's someone who shows up for others as well, like who's respectful and looks after the ones in their tribe, whether it's your family or if it's your friends. I think for me that's a man. A man, so from
composure, but also how do you word that?
For me, it's not about like, you think of a man, you're thinking of like you're thinking of the Arnie Schwarzeneggers, you're thinking of the the strong type, in terms of what they look like. Yeah. But you'll see some of these people who are, look physical and they look masculine in the inverted commas definition, but they're a mess inside,
Yes.
And I feel like for me, a man is someone who can control their emotions, who shows up, who's respectful, who is who looks after people, and I because there's men out there who they're men by the definition of the term, which is biological, but I think that they're still got a lot to do to prove that they are a man at the same time.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're still coming back to feelings and needs.
Yeah.
And realizing that, even as a man, you have feelings.
Yeah.
And you basically, if and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing you say a man is someone who can steward their own emotions in a healthy way.
Yeah.
To a point that not only can they handle their own feelings and carry themselves well, but they also can handle what's going on in someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Because I think of like my father when I grew up, like he he was always there for me. He always showed up. You know, he always had my side. He always gave me advice. You know, and he's not the biggest guy, he's not the strongest guy, but to me, he 100% is. Do you know what I mean? Because like he has like instilled in me like those good, I believe, male characteristics of like looking after your family. You know, he would have worked, you know, obviously he would have had his job, and then he would have went out at the weekend to work even, you know, even more to go bring more money in so we could maybe, you know, go on a holiday, you know, once a year or once every 2 years, you know. And for me, like I always remember that, you know, he grinded for me, you know, and grinded for my family. So being a man isn't about being, you know, who can drink the most piss, or you know, who can, you know, who can go to the rugby match and come off of the scoring try or something like that, you know. For me, it's about the ones who show up, the ones who are there for their people, and in some respects who can control their emotions. And that's probably one of the things, the journeys I've been on. Like I probably was the type of guy who would have been quite emotional, not hot-headed, but you know, if I'm playing football, like I probably I've got that Irish in me, you know what I mean? That little bit crazy. But I think that I've come a long way and matured a lot in that space. So that's probably my definition.
That's an awesome definition. I love it. So we're talking about taking a man apart and really seeing what's going on under the hood, like what's put together, what's not, what's making you fall apart. Because that's the type of man you presenting to the world. So I love that, because I actually totally agree with it as well. Like that, I really believe I'll agree with that definition. Like definitely, because that's the structure, or the traditional structure of a family. And that's the structure that I do feel like is being marginalized by what's going on right now. I'm not saying it's a malicious marginalization, but I definitely am saying that looking at it as just an objective observation, it is being marginalized. The traditional view of what a family is supposed to look like, with that man not being on the top of the family, but actually being the floor and the foundation and holding up, you know.
There's nothing wrong with that at the same time. You know, like why shouldn't a man want to do that? Like, what's wrong with that? Like, you know, it's like as if that's a bad thing, but it's 100% not. If you're trying to offer stability, you're offering a great foundation for your family, you know, at the same time, the woman, or even your male partner, or, you know, whatever partner that you have in your life, they're going to have a certain role that they play at the same time. You know, that the man maybe can't play as much, you know. Like for me, I'm pretty like impatient, where my wife is like really patient. You know,
balance each other.
Yeah, so you have to have that balance, or it doesn't work. If you're both super impatient, you're just going to fight all the time. You know, so I'd imagine if I have kids, then she's probably going to balance that out at the same time, and you need that. You need a bit of a yin and yang to have a successful family, I would assume. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
So from a cultural perspective, like what are the main contrasts of the understanding of this topic between Belfast and Auckland, if you were to if you had any?
I mean, in Ireland, there are some similarities with regards to like what the Irish definition of a man, the New Zealand definition of a man. You know, you see the haka, right? And that's kind of like the cultural sort of definition of New Zealand. That's what people love, you know, when they come here. And that it's like a celebratory dance, but it's quite passionate, and there's that rawness in it as well. But there's that sort of masculine sort of definition around it too. In Ireland, like we probably have something similar to what we expect a man to be. But I do get there's a mental health position in there as well, where some men maybe struggle with that definition.
Absolutely.
and don't maybe feel like they can get there. But I think the definition of a man is the person who's maybe trying to get there. You know, is trying to be more.
That's good.
Is maybe trying to be the person who's trying to improve their mental health for the better of themselves and for the better of others, you know?
Yep.
I think that's maybe the definition as opposed to being the completed article, because no one's the completed article, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's probably what I would have said.
Okay, well, I guess we pretty much partially answered this question already, but I'll ask it anyway. In our current society, do you feel that it's still okay to be just a man, the way that we define manhood? We've already kind of answered that question, but if you wanted to have any further thoughts on it, definitely can.
I think we've just got to be careful for what we wish for as well. You know, if we try and make everyone the same, you know, if we try and make everyone, I don't know, like, I don't know what I don't even know what what people want, you know, but I reckon if you went and interviewed everybody in the world and you asked them, I reckon everyone would probably have some similar views on this, but it's the mainstream media that is maybe pouring a definition down our throats that is maybe giving us that like fear to be who we want to be, you know? So I think we should be careful for what we wish for. I think that we should just be individuals.
Yeah.
I think that we should care for one another. I think we should treat everyone with respect. And I think that we should look at every individual as an individual, not as a group of people.
Yeah.
Just treat that person who's sitting across from you or who's behind you in the queue, not as gay, not as trans, not as white, not as black. Just treat them as an individual, treat them as a human being.
Mutual respect, man.
100%.
Goes a long way, you know, but it's just like man, this conversation can go on so many different octopus arms, man. It's like, but that's just, it really was good what you said about earlier about, you know, who is actually you know, controlling the conversation or the narrative. Because I kind of feel like the way it is right now, it does come down to identity. That's really what it comes down to, which comes down to what you're feeling inside.
Yeah.
Anyway, so people are fighting for freedom. So I'm all for fighting for freedom and I'm all for fighting for justice. But at the same time, if you marginalize someone else in the process, then you've just negated your cause.
Yeah.
You know, because now you're causing someone else to be captive
in
the name of your freedom.
100%.
And that right there is the reason for every war that's ever happened in the past. And it's just like on the way here to the studio, a prime example, like I was looking for something to eat. You know, and the restaurants that I passed up, I didn't really want any of them, but that's what was available. That's what was broadcast to me. So I started to actually gravitate to one of them because that's what was broadcast to me. That's what was afforded to me. And I think that's the same thing is happening here. Like if mainstream media was to go ahead and say, hey, forget about changing your gender. Let's change your DNA. We got a way now and you can turn into a dolphin at night and you can turn into a human in the morning.
We're getting there. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, but that's literally like, I think then we'll be fighting. So now you have you'll have the trans community and all the people from that community that's fighting around, LGBT community. Then they'll be competing with that community now. No, we're part animal, part human community. You know, then it will be another thing. Yeah. Because so the trend is, okay, identity, we're trying to fight to become something because we're trying to feel something. Yeah. Because we need something. So at the end of the day, we need to figure out what is it that we actually need and trying to help each other get there. Yeah. Whether you believe, you don't have to believe what I believe. You don't have to, whether it's my faith views, my views on burgers. Yeah. It doesn't matter. We can agree to disagree. Yeah. We can still sit down and eat lunch together and disagree.
It's about talking to each other.
Talking to each other, man.
So I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a guy from America, and he went to interview the KKK.
Oh yeah, I saw that story.
Yeah, and he became like best friends with the leader of the KKK, yep. And this was a black guy,
dude. I saw it.
And I'm like, that's because they sat down and have dialogue and talk to each other. Yep. And if you start to say, you know, to control the narrative and you're ramming that down people's throats and you don't let people connect with each other, then you'll never break down those barriers. So we've got to be able to have conversation with each other. We've got to be able to sit down and talk to each other. And you got to have free speech, in my opinion, because if you don't, then we're going down towards a really, really scary place. Like, it's super scary. You've got to be able to talk. And I think that's a great example of it. Someone who obviously harbored all this hate and all this racism.
Yep.
And he became friends with a black guy who, and it's like an incredible story. Like, how incredible is that? Like,
it's amazing.
I'm like, that is what life's about.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's what life is about. People connecting with each other and talking to each other and finding out reason, and then actually becoming friends. You know,
it's amazing. And that's, again, another, and that's what the show is about, is about, you know, celebrating culture and being able to meet in the middle, you know, having different perspectives and still be able to sit at the same table. I think I'm pretty much done, because I can go on other tangents. Do you have any other final thoughts you want to give to the listeners on this?
No, I think we're just it's an interesting time. Obviously, we've talked about a few different topics, but I think that we, as a country, New Zealand's is an amazing place. It's a super accepting country. It's super diverse. You know, I think compared to the world, you know, you're seeing this crazy stuff going on, whether it's in America, whether it's in Britain, wherever it is in the world. I think New Zealand's is in a pretty cool place, and I think that it's a place that we celebrate conversation. And no, I just thank you for welcoming me here today and bring me along.
Oh, man, you've been an amazing guest.
Yeah,
this was such a good conversation to have. And your story, your immigration story is amazing as well. Hopefully one day I can make it over there.
Yeah. If you ever get the Ireland, hopefully I'll be there at the same time. Show you around.
That'd be so good.
You need to get to the Coromandel first, though.
I know, right? I got to get to the South Island first. I got to get to all these different places I've never been. But no, this has been really good.
Yeah.
My final thoughts would be, like, I think we just need to learn to, you know, be okay to disagree without canceling each other out. Like, it's okay to not have the same thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to believe what I believe. You know, it's okay.
Yeah.
We can still just like, my view on one thing doesn't mean that, you know, we don't have other things in common that we can, you know, still go through life. We're all humans. We all put pants on one leg at a time. You know, we all we all have a lot of similarities, but we focus too much on our differences, and I think it's ripping us apart. And it's been doing it for far too long. And in order for us to actually move forward, we do, like you say, we need to sit down and try to come to some type of common ground, even on the really hard topics. That's the reason why I chose this topic, because a lot of people are trying to stay away from these topics. But I think the time for that is over. You know, we got a younger generation that's looking up to us, and they need leadership. They need us to. They don't want to look at us fighting. They want to. They want to look to us and say, okay, how do we navigate through differences? And I think this is such a good beginning point. So thank you again, Mick. And man, maybe you can come back on
100%.
All right,
appreciate it, bro. Thank you.
All good.